Ayn Rand's famous novel Atlas Shrugged was first published in 1957, and now more than 50 years later, the story has been adapted for the big screen for the very first time. Now, the film takes place in the future, and it shows the frightening reality of what can happen when a federal government knows no bounds. And here's a sneak peek.
Nobody's used Reardon metal. Why do we have to be the first?
Well, they say you're intractable, you're ruthless, your only goal is to make money.
My only goal is to make money.
Yeah, but you shouldn't say it.
If we're gonna bring Reardon down, we should do it from the inside.
I am placing a moratorium on all railroad bonds.
We can't afford to allow the expansion of a company which produces too much.
A federal tax will be applied to all steel mills.
All right, the movie is set to be released next month, something that might never have happened had Hollywood liberals gotten their way. And joining me now to explain all of this is the host of Stossel on the Fox Business Network, our good friend John Stossel. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. And by the way, I've always said Ayn Rand.
I'm told it's Ayn Rand.
Yeah. All right. But neither here nor there. Who is John Galt? And we were talking about this before we went on there. There were certain writers that just had this vision of the future. It seems like, you know, this out-of-control, no bounds government, I don't care if it's Orwell's 84 or some of Taylor Caldwell is a favorite author of mine, or Atlas Shrugged, they got it. They understood what could happen. Where did this vision come from?
Well, she grew up in Russia where she saw what happened from big government. But I agree. I was just amazed. I read it as a kid. You know, it's a fun adventure story.
Right.
And it's still selling millions of copies.
5 million I read, and 500,000 last
unreal.
year.
But having become a consumer reporter and then really studied the effects of big government, I reread it, and it was, oh, my God, how could she see 50 years ago what would happen now in America, that you have to beg a bureaucrat's permission to do anything? How many cool...
Cut down a tree. Did you ever try and cut down a tree on your own property?
I wouldn't dare.
They got the tree police in my neighborhood.
And how many good inventions are we denied because people have to jump through all these hoops?
Or prescriptions. People dying of cancer. They want to risk an experimental drug. Good luck.
And this movie and this book tell this story 50 years ago. It's amazing. It was hard to get the movie made.
Well, that's what I want to ask you next. Why, first of all, Bob Beckel's brother, who is a conservative, those of you who may have seen the Beckel brothers debate on the show, there was a difficulty in a 20-year waiting period from the time that somebody bought the rights to this.
Hollywood is liberal. And they say, oh, this is this woman who likes capitalism and selfishness, and we don't like her. And still, some people signed on. Brad Pitt was interested once. Angelina Jolie was going to play Dagny Taggart, but the studios, well, we're not really into that. And finally, a businessman, John Aguilaro, said, I'll spend $10 million of my own money. I'm going to get this made. This is the first. It's a 1,000-page book. You can't do it in one movie. It's the first of 3.
Yeah. All right. What do you think this could have an impact? Because look, I communicate on radio, I communicate on TV, I listen to music. Music is very powerful because it touches your emotions. Movies can touch you deeply. You know, you look through a movie theater, tearjerker, you see people crying, reacting. You think this could have an impact on people's understanding of government, the dangers of out-of-control government and power grabs and high taxation, and maybe the concept of freedom on the other hand?
Yes, because to understand that takes work. And most people have lives. They don't want to devote that much work to it. But to see it in a story where you care about the character who's being squashed by the state opens people's eyes.
Yeah, I agree. When you look at what's happening today, and I mentioned this earlier, the month of February, our deficit was $223 billion. In 2007,
just for one month.
The short month. In 2007, for the whole year, it was $161 billion.
It's frightening. I mean, at least now we're talking about it. Politicians rarely even talked about it, so that's the first step.
Are they talking about it because we're forcing them to talk about it? $14 trillion on track to double in less than 10 years, to $28 trillion.
Well, nobody's forcing the Tea Party movement to go to these rallies and say this is too much. So I think people, I hope, are waking up, finally.
You mean those racist white people, gun-toting, that bitterly cling to their guns and religion? Those
are the people. I don't think they are.
The
Either
NPR
do you,
what did you think of that NPR tape?
Oh, where the guy, Schiller, was...
Yeah.
Well, frankly, I'm amazed he turned down $5 million.
From a group that basically said they were supportive of the Muslim Brotherhood, John?
Very few people turned down $5 million, so I was sort of respected the guy for that.
Well, Rudy turned down the money that was offered by...
That's
that?
true.
That was a big moment. All right, John Stossel, we'll be watching...
This movie comes out April 15th, appropriately.
Yeah, appropriately. Very good. Thanks. And I actually got my copy from him, so I'm going to watch it tonight. Thank you. And coming up another day, Charlie Sheen, another outburst. We've got the tape of this troubled actor in his latest tirade. And later, why comments from former NBA star turned ESPN analysts are now being called foul. That and much more in our Great American Panel straight ahead. All right, so the circus that is Charlie Sheen continued last night in the latest and supposedly last edition of his Sheen's Corner webcast. Now, this was the first time the troubled actor spoke at length about his firings from CBS and the sitcom 2.5 Men. And yet again, during his unusual monologue, Sheen referred to himself in a variety of ways. For example, the poet Edgar Allan Mee, the Malibu Messiah, the Grand Magician, and of course, a warlock. He also sent a special message to his old bosses over at CBS.
You are all nothing shy of traitors. Your irrational egos will be your downfall. Mark this warlock's words. Defeat is not an option. A high treason has occurred. The scales of justice are in a state of radical disarray. Together we must right this infantile wrong. One final note, Sheen's Corner is now for sale as a sports bar. You know where to find me, so I bid you adieu. Stay tuned, good soldiers. I'll see you all very soon on the battlefield. Godspeed.
All right, here with reaction, Ashlyn Gores from E! News and clinical psychologist Ramani Devasala is with us. And guys, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us. All right, Ashley, let me...
Thank you.
Well, actually, I thought of all the recent things we've seen, he looked a little more calm in this one, a little more steady here. What do you think?
I completely agree. He wasn't as disheveled the night before when his hair was all over the place, just chain smoking. The man has a good vocabulary, and I also think that he has some good points, but I mean, it's just, he's so narcissistic, it's almost comical to watch him do this. Yes, he did look like a train wreck before, and I think people started worrying about his health, which I do think there are some issues, but he's still entertaining, even when he's completely crazy.
Well, and then I guess that's why people are watching it. All right, Ramani, you're a clinical psychologist. The one that scared me the most for him is when he said amateurs die, and I've been quoting this, and they sort of count in the control room how many times I'll say it, but we'll run the tape of what I've been referring to, banging 7 grams. Here's what he said.
Tell me about the last time you took drugs.
The last time I took drugs, I probably took more than anybody could survive. You know.
What are we talking about? How much?
I don't know, man. I was banging 7-gram rocks and finishing them because that's how I roll. I have one speed. I have one gear. Go.
What do you think of that?
I mean, this is a man who's deteriorating in front of our eyes. We've watched Charlie Sheen go from soup to nuts. And so what seemed to many like a performance for a little while really seems now to be a frank deterioration into a significant manic episode. And that little bit about the cocaine use, whether this mania is substance-induced or whether it's part of a lifelong history of bipolar disorder, we're not clear, but there's definitely things have changed and they're getting worse. Though he seemed calm in that prior broadcast where he was talking about CBS, he's very disheveled. He sounds very exhausted. He's likely not sleeping. So his symptoms are very much consistent with a deteriorating manic episode.
Didn't you agree with Ashlyn and myself that I think he looked better in this one than in previous ones? And if the drug tests are accurate and he's not using drugs now, that would be a hopeful sign for him. And by the way, he despises people that are psychoanalyzing him without having met him. He doesn't like that, you know. All right, let me
and I don't disagree with him.
Why?
I don't disagree with him. You know, I would love to meet him because I agree. The best way for me to diagnose him is to spend an hour with him, get to know his history, find out what he's thinking, how he sounds.
Cut open your veins, drink a little tiger blood. I mean, you could share it. You know, a cocktail that you've never had before. All right. Well, it is funny. Let's talk about there was. Remember the incident that he had in New York with this woman that's a porn star, and he ended up going to the hospital. He was asked about this affinity that he has for porn stars, and here was his answer.
It's no secret that you have an affinity for porn stars.
Well, I mean, wow, listen to that statement.
Why?
Well, look at what they do. Look at what I do. Duh.
You know, you say duh, but I don't get it. What is it?
It's exciting, it's fun, and you already know what you're getting before you meet them.
Because you've watched them.
No, because I'm guessing right. Well, of course. What's not to watch? They're the best at what they do, and I'm the best at what I do, and together it's like, it's on. Sorry, Middle America. Yeah, I said it.
Now, I asked him, what's interesting, that girl from New York said, yeah, this is what I do, but I don't think I should be around somebody's children.
Well, exactly. And you know what? Everybody needs to remember this. As great, as you know, as interesting as Charlie Sheen is, as people are so obsessed, he still has kids to worry about. And that's really the saddest thing about this whole story is Charlie's winning, but the kids aren't. And he has 2 ex-wives, and it's just kind of sad to think that they're going to grow up being exposed to all this on the internet. We're all going to remember when Charlie Sheen completely lost it, and so are his kids.
Well, I think that's see. This is what part I don't get. He was married to 2 beautiful women, Denise Richards and Brooke Mueller, I think was the name of his second wife. He's got 4 kids there. He has another child. He's got 5 kids. That's when I hear he's banging, you know, 7 grams, and he's hanging out with porn stars and wedging with his 2 girlfriends, the goddesses. I'm thinking, well, what about the kids, Charlie? You lost your kids. And, you know, he may be winning against CBS, maybe winning the public, you know, the Twitter battle. But is he winning in his personal life, and does he seem to get that? I don't think so.
I don't think he cares.
No, he's not.
I honestly, at this point, don't think that he cares.
No, that's sad. Ramani?
Oh. No, absolutely not. I mean, I think what we have with Charlie Sheen is sort of this perfect storm of substance use, mania, and most importantly, narcissism. And I think in the beginning, when the narcissism really was what was present, he was pretty lucid, and he was really hurling some very funny one-liners. That's why a lot of people thought it was a performance. In the last 24 hours, this stopped feeling like a performance, and it started feeling like frank psychopathology. Nobody's winning, least of all him. You know, he really needs to get out of this episode and get some help.
You know, the interesting thing to me, he's got a quick mind. He's sharp. He's smart. He's funny. He's I think he's a very good actor. And I hope for his family's sake and his sake that he doesn't become another Hollywood tragedy. Guys, thanks for being with us.
Agreed.
Time now to check in with Greta Van Susteren for a sneak peek. By the way, when are you inviting Jimmy McMillan on the show?
Friday night.
Friday night.
He's gonna be a Friday. Yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, I'm very excited. In fact, didn't he say that you were like really smart or something like that? So I'm gonna find out what he has to say about me.
Well, he might have been banging 7 rocks for saying that, but I mean,
I don't think so. I don't think so. But anyway, we got a great show tonight because we are gonna go to my home state, Wisconsin, and find out what's going on there. Because I'll tell you, the tension is very high in that state. You can practically cut it with a knife. Plus, we got the latest on NPR, and Lou Dobbs is going to join us, and there's news in the healthcare battle, that and so much more. And of course, Jimmy is on Friday night.
Jimmy, Friday night, the showdown. Greta, coming up in 19 short minutes. Let Not Your Heart Be Troubled. Our great, great, great American panel is next.